Most games announced this year looked familiar. Old remakes or just different art style with same ideas underneath. So I did something obsessive. I went through every single game revealed at the major game fests of 2026. Yes, through the hordes of trailers and army of Steam pages. And I made a list of the 12 upcoming indie games with ideas I've never seen before. Fresh mechanics, weird concepts I couldn't immediately put a label on. Steam links are given in the description if you want to wishlist these or try their demos. Let's start the list. First one is Armatus. Think of it as Dark Souls with automatic guns and flashy abilities, and I went into this one expecting a pretty standard action, and honestly, walked away kind of obsessed. It's a third-person roguelite shooter set in the demon-infested ruins of Paris, and you're playing as the last warrior of an ancient supernatural order. You're not just shooting demons, you're a blessed warrior with divine abilities tearing through a corrupted city on a mission to find a lost gateway to heaven. What got me was the feeling of this action power fantasy. The setting is gritty, the abilities feel impactful, and the roguelite loop kept pulling me back for one more run. If you love action roguelites and want to do it with guns, Armatus is absolutely one to keep an eye on. Into the Wind is basically what you'd get if Stardew Valley and a Studio Ghibli had a baby, and that baby also owned a flying motorcycle, and I was not prepared for how charming it is. You and your sentient motorcycle plane named Armatus explored the islands of Santa Rosa together, running deliveries, making friends, fighting air pirates, and trying to figure out what happened to your missing uncle. What's special is that Armatus isn't just a vehicle, it's your companion with its own personality. The whole thing feels genuinely wholesome, but with just enough mystery and weirdness to keep you hooked. Playing the demo felt like a warm hug with a hint of adventure. If you love chill, story-rich, open-world cozy games with a twist, wishlist Into the Wind right now. Cassette Beasts 2002 is the Pokemon alternative I've been waiting for, and I say that as someone who's tried a lot of monster collecting games. The original Cassette Beast was already beloved, and this sequel takes everything people loved, sets it in London of 2002, and adds online co-op. You record and fuse over 250 beasts, team up with companions, and take on an occultist threatening both the human and beast realms. What genuinely separates it is the fusion system. You don't just collect monsters, you fuse with them and combine their abilities and forms. From the gameplay, it felt creative, in a way most games in this genre never bother to be. You can play it solo or with a friend online. I think it is one of the most exciting monster collecting RPGs coming out this year. Screenbound is what feels really mind-bending and inventive at the same time. It calls itself the world's first 5D platformer, and the idea is that you're navigating both a 2D and a 3D world at the same time, switching between them to solve puzzles and fight through levels. The reality you're playing in is literally part of the puzzle. I went into the demo expecting a gimmick and came out genuinely impressed by how thoughtfully it's designed. Every time I figured something out, I felt like I'd actually earned it. If you love platformers that challenge your perception of space and make you feel clever for solving them, Screenbound is absolutely one to watch. Shroom and Gloom is what happens when you combine Slay the Spire with Inscription, and I mean that in the best possible way. I was hooked within the first 5 minutes of the demo. It's a first-person roguelike deck builder set in hand-drawn fungal dungeons, and it uses 2 completely separate decks, one for combat and one for exploration. And here's the part that really got me. You can roast and eat your enemies to restore health. The art is gorgeous in a dark and surreal way, and managing 2 decks instead of 1 changes how deck building actually feels at a fundamental level. And yes, this one is not an indie, as it's published by Devolver Digital, a well-known studio in the industry. But if you're a deck builder fan who wants something completely fresh, go play the Shroom and Gloom demo right now. Virtue and a Sledgehammer is the kind of game that has no real comparison, and that's exactly what makes it special. This one hit me somewhere personal. It's a narrative exploration game where you go back to your hometown and tear it apart with a sledgehammer. That's the whole mechanic. You're working through the feeling of not belonging in the place you grew up, and the act of demolishing it is how the game tells that story. It's melancholic and cathartic and strange in a way I wasn't expecting. The demo was short, but it left a real impression. There is nothing else like this out there. If you're into deeply personal narrative games, the kind that make you feel something and then sit with you after you close the game, Virtue and a Sledgehammer is made for you. Fogpiercer is basically a kind of deck battle simulator, except you're on a post-apocalyptic train hurtling through a frozen wasteland, and the train itself is your deck. And that concept alone had me paying attention before I'd even touched it. Every carriage you add to your train gives you new cards, and when bandits come at you from the sides, your positioning becomes a weapon. You can literally shunt enemies into cliff sides using your train's momentum. I loved how tactile it feels compared to most deck builders, which tend to be pretty abstract. Fogpiercer puts you in a moving, physical space where the environment is part of the strategy. If you love roguelite deck builders but want something with more chaos and spatial thinking baked in, this is exactly the game for that. ReVamp is like inverse Dungeon Keeper, but with a surprisingly emotional story underneath it all. And this one flipped a concept I'd seen 100 times and made it feel completely fresh. You're Dracula, and instead of heroes storming your castle, you're the one defending it from relentless mortal invaders. You build and reshape your fortress room by room, command an army of monsters. And when things get messy, you jump in and fight yourself. You're not just a passive castle manager watching towers do the work, you're actually in the fight, and the story about a war waged for eternity over someone you couldn't save gives ReVamp real emotional weight. If you love villain power fantasies with deep strategy, this one is for you. There are no ghosts at the Grand, is what you'd get if unpacking met Luigi's Mansion. Then someone added a jazz musical soundtrack and set the whole thing in a crumbling seaside hotel. By day, you're renovating the Grand Hotel using tools like a sandblaster, a paint sprayer, and a furniture cannon. By night, those same tools become ghost hunting weapons. Every character you meet has their own original song to discover. You've got 30 in-game days before something bad happens, and the tension of that deadline creeping up while you're scrubbing walls is genuinely unsettling in the most delightful way. The demo had me smiling, confused, and a little creeped out all at once. If you like cozy games but want them to get properly weird after dark, this one is it. Ascenders Beyond the Peak is a unique mountain climbing game set in Lovecraftian-like world. You're leading a team of mountain climbers tethered together by a rope, ascending cursed peaks to recover ancient artifacts. Every climber has a class. Scouts use grappling hooks, Highlanders literally shove enemies off cliff edges, Sappers use explosives. And if someone dies, they're gone for good. The rope mechanic is what really sets Ascenders apart. Your whole team moves as one connected unit. So positioning and spacing matter in a way I've never experienced in a tactics game before. Playing the demo felt tense and strategic and punishing, and I couldn't stop. If you love tactics games where every decision has permanent consequences, put this on your wishlist immediately. Arcane Eats is basically what would happen if Slay the Spire decided to open a restaurant, and it works better than you'd expect. I went in a little skeptical thinking the cooking theme would just be a coat of paint over standard deck building, and I was completely wrong. You're a master chef at a fantasy tavern, your cards are ingredients, and you're stacking them on magical stovetops while managing cook times and satisfying increasingly demanding fantasy creatures. The cooking mechanic actually changes how you think about sequencing and planning. You're not just playing cards, you're running a kitchen. It's chaotic and strategic and funny at the same time. If you're a deck builder fan who's run through Balatro a dozen times and wants something genuinely different, give this one a shot. I saved Spellsided for last because nothing else compares to what it's doing. Think of a dice meeting a puzzle RPG, except you are the puzzle. Yes, you play as a magical six-sided die, and each face of your die casts a different spell. You physically roll through the world and how you position yourself, which face lands, and what order you sequence your casts all matter. You can stack spells, upgrade faces, and sequence casts to reshape the environment around you. I played the Spellsided demo twice back-to-back because I kept seeing new ways to approach things I'd already solved. If you love games that rewire how you think, this is one of a kind. That's all 12 upcoming indie games with novel ideas I shortlisted for myself. Most of these has a free demo on Steam right now, so go try them yourself. Like and subscribe if you want to, otherwise, thanks for watching.